Books and Business, giving you strategy, systems, and speed to scale your online business.
Hey, Amber V here. And gosh, today this lesson in the Books and Business curriculum hits home because this one is a personal story. I was working with a prospect a few years ago, Darius Mirshahzadeh. And Darius comes to me and says, Amber, I want to launch a book. It's all about core values. It's how he grew to be one of the top mortgage companies in the country. And I said, great, I love that idea. Core values are really important. He's like, oh yeah, what are your core values? And I said, oh, I've done my core values. Hold on, let me just pull them up on my computer and get them for you. Yes, I'm totally humiliating myself right now on a public YouTube video, but that's what happened. You can always expect honesty and transparency from me. And this was just a few years ago. So I was more than a decade into my business when I'm having this meeting with Darius, and he says, see, this is what I'm talking about. All these companies have their core values written, but they don't have them memorized. That's not the language of the organization, and that's why it doesn't work. So he put out a book called The Core Value Equation. I am sure I've helped Darius sell thousands of copies of that book because I am a huge promoter of it and a definite believer of it. I live it every single day now. I really appreciated his accountability, and it took me into that weekend. I did an exercise where I have this huge whiteboard in my office, and I started writing down all of the keywords that came up for me when I started thinking about what do I value? What do I value in relationships? What do I value in an experience when I'm buying something? What have I valued in my past? What about my family, my friends, my kid, my relationships? Like, I really went down this rabbit hole and I started putting these words all over my whiteboard. Then I started to group them together, and then I started to prioritize them. And I was consolidating this list down, down, down until I came up with my top 5. Meaningful connection, better together, unwavering excellence, lean in, deeply fulfilled. There they were, staring at me on the whiteboard. And I knew in that moment with absolute clarity that my business was going to change forevermore. Over the next 6 months, we rolled out these core values into the company. I started to live by them in my personal life, as a parent, in relationship, the way I interacted with my family. And wow, did it change my life. So I am a huge proponent of core values. I want to extend a great big thank you to Darius and just the ability to share that message with me and what it has meant for my life and all of the other businesses and lives that I've touched through this message as well. You know, core values are so great because it becomes the ultimate decision-making tool. I'll give you an example. So I was working with this girl years ago, and right around the time that I had rolled this out into the company, and honestly, this employee that I'd had for years before, it just felt like something was off in the relationship. Like she just wasn't performing at the same level that she used to. And I remember it started to create a little bit of chaos in the company. Like all of a sudden, she was more about her seniority and her title than I remember ever noticing before. And then all of a sudden, team members started to get frustrated, and then more conflict arose. And I thought, what is going on? Well, when I started to evaluate this girl next to the core values, I recognized that there were 3 core values that she was not upholding. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, I can't have somebody in my organization, especially as a senior, more employee, if she's not upholding these core values. So we had a conversation that ultimately led to her conscious and loving transition out of the organization. But now from that point forward, anytime I was hiring somebody new, I was hiring them in comparison to the core values and asking them to even come up with stories or examples of how they would exemplify these core values in the past and in their personal lives or professionally. So these core values are serious, man. They become the absolute decision-making tool in your company. I will tell you too, a couple of years ago, we had scaled up big time in NGNG. We had 38 people in my team at the beginning of 2022. And in that moment, I looked at what was ahead of me. Is this what I really wanted? And I had to have a really hard conversation with myself. And I looked at where we were in the business in comparison to my core values. And when I really did that comparison, I realized that I had gotten caught up in the smoke and mirrors of the online world, and I started getting out of alignment. And I started to make decisions that I thought, consciously were a part of my core value set. But when I really evaluated them to this degree, it was outside of my core value set. Therefore, I started making different business decisions to shift my model back into a more boutique size where I'm still generating the same amount of revenue and an even bigger impact while having more of my time back, being much more selective about the types of clients that I interact with and in what way, in what capacity. And it was a game changer for me. So again, it becomes that decision-making tool. These core values become the wellness, the health, the vitality of your culture and business. It's how we treat each other inside of the company. And I mean both internally and externally with clients. So please be mapping your core values against what is the experience I want my team to have? What's the experience I want to have as the CEO and leader of that team, even if you only have a team size of 2, right? It's like you, a VA, and a web developer out there. That still counts. So you got to take this stuff really seriously. And how can you exemplify and hold accountable to these core values so that you have a healthier organization? And the last thing I have written here is that your core values become this compass towards your personal freedom and personal fulfillment. So I got to tell you, from here, you've got to do the homework. Get a whiteboard, get your iPad, get a blank piece of paper, start writing down all of the words that really matter to you in your life. Now, natural ones are like, I value honesty and integrity. But go even deeper than that. Is that really what you value the most? What else do you value? Start really thinking about some of your relationships and the ones that went wrong. And I definitely did not value when this person did whatever it was, but oh my God, I love this person. I love how they just show up in the world in this particular way, and be thinking about these different circumstances and experiences to really lock in maybe 5 core values that you have. And if you decide to put a little flair to them, as I did to some of mine, like I didn't just say fulfillment, I said deeply fulfilled. See how that changes it? I didn't just say connection, I said meaningful connection. Lean in. That's different than courage or strength or perseverance, right? Lean into, I was thinking about like leaning into difficult conversations, leaning into love, leaning into success, leaning into freedom and joy and silliness. Like I want to be that person that leans in. So anyway, I would love to know what your core values are. Put them in the comments, send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram. I'd really love to know the set that you came up with, and then start experimenting. Like look at the people around you and the friendships that you hold. Are you accountable to your own core values, or do we need to make some changes so that you are more in alignment with the people that you surround yourself with, the experiences that you have, etc.? This is going to be really important in order to make sure that our why is getting promoted, our vision, our goals are getting amplified and met. And next, on the next lesson, I cannot wait for this one. I learned this exercise years ago. I think this was year 2 in my business, and now I'm approaching year 16. So this is a long time ago. There was an exercise that I went through that forever changed the course of my business. It helped me to attract in more qualified people. It helped me to make the sales process much easier because I didn't want to be a high pressure salesperson. It helped everything to be more harmonious and functional, and I was in flow state. So if you want to know what that is, subscribe to my YouTube channel, because then you'll get notified when the next week's lesson drops. And until then, do your core values homework, and just remember, no guts, no glory.